I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation, the shooting death of Kentucky Judge Kevin Mullins inside his own chambers. Everything in this case was caught on video, but there are still a lot more questions involving this investigation. Here's the story. It happened inside a place meant for justice, not violence. Authorities say a Kentucky sheriff walked into the judge's chambers, exchanging words that turned deadly. Gunfire erupted, echoing through the quiet courthouse halls. The judge was struck and critically injured. Deputies rushed in. The sheriff surrendered. A man once trusted to uphold the law, now accused of shattering it. Investigators say the motive may be tied to a long simmering dispute over some local corruption in Letcher County. As the community reels, one haunting question lingers in every corner of that courthouse. What drives a man sworn to protect justice to try to destroy it? This story from the beginning, we have seen the videos and we've been able to track everything that happened that day. But that lingering question that we're getting closer to understanding, which is why did this happen? But there are a lot of little pieces that are now starting to come out that are giving us a little bit of a clearer picture. Now, in the beginning, one of the central figures that everyone was talking about was the sheriff's daughter. Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas has been following this case for us. He's been out there to Letcher County. And the daughter now speaking out on social media about this.
Yeah, Vinny, Mickey Steins' daughter, Lila Steins, took to TikTok. She posted a couple of videos, the first one regarding this case, kind of targeting the people she says were gossiping and spreading rumors around Letcher County. Let's take a listen to a portion of that video now.
Do you all not have anything better to do than to sit and gossip? You are taking my pain and making it your pleasure. You're taking our stories and turning them into big entertainment pieces, jokes, and for that matter, you're making it your income. Since when did that become okay? So my advice to the people doing that, get a job.
Vinny, that clip there, of course, had a little bit of fire behind it. You know, she's in the mix of all those rumors going around Letcher County, or what she says are rumors. But she posted another video to her TikTok, kind of clearing up any confusion that people may have had about her messaging. Let's take a look at that one.
I had good intentions with that video. A lot of you were asking, what stories? What do you mean by gossip? And what I mean by that is the stories that were made up about me and the other party. I am aware of how serious this is and how much of a big deal it is. I was not talking about news or social media. I was simply talking about the people who sit at home behind a keyboard all day and say terrible things about my name.
Now, Vinny, this is, of course, the social media landscape. And with the story as big and controversial and nationwide as this one, there, of course, was some public response. So I went on social media and pulled a few comments, some supporting her, some kind of neutral, and some that are just flat out against what she's saying. But we'll start with the comment from social media of a woman supporting her, a woman by the name of Shelly Joe. Shelly Joe posts, "Respect her for saying what she needed to, and people insulting her are crude. She's a beautiful young woman and deserves support and prayer, as do her family, the judge's family as well. It has become too sensationalized. People are naturally curious, but it's primarily a tragedy in so many ways, and I'm very sorry the two families and community are going through this." So now, Vinny, we advance to some more neutral posts here. This one's by a woman named Tia Cole. She says, "That young lady is old enough to know that people discuss things on social media. For her to take it personally is her choice. I don't know why she wants to give total strangers that kind of power, but she gets to." Judy Bowling posts, "Her story is no different than any other crime story, and people are going to talk about it no matter what. It's going to be on media, social media, and the topic of conversation in the community and beyond. The best thing for her to do is step away from these outlets and get some counseling and try to heal from this. It is what it is. She can't control what her father did, or the judge for that matter. I hate that her family is going through this, but you will never stop the talk." And many of these other two comments here are Short, brief, but seemingly against what she had to say. This woman named Sheila, he didn't kill a judge for no reason. This girl knows something. And Sandy posts, so, big deal. Doesn't matter what the judge did. Doesn't give you the right to shoot him and kill him. You do not get that right to kill someone, period. And Vinnie, I also reached out to Jeremy Bartley, the attorney for former Sheriff Mickey Steins, for a comment about these social media posts. I reached out to him by phone and email, but have yet to hear back.
All right. Now, I understand it from both ends, right? People speaking about it, but also this young woman in the middle of it. And one of the reasons she's in the middle of it is because of what we know from those videos and from the testimony in court. Take a look inside the courtroom. We see the sheriff is calling his daughter. Like, that's the last thing he does prior to shooting the judge, is he calls the daughter from his phone, and then he uses the judge's phone to call her. What I don't know is if he was able to connect with his daughter or not. But that's what put her in the story. It was the phone call. It was the last thing that happened before the shooting. And I think that's what gave rise to a lot of the rumors that were out there. But it still leaves an incredibly important question in all of this. And it's our first question in our investigation. Why did the sheriff call his daughter just before the shooting? Right? And we know there is some level of mental health involved in this case. The defense has made that very clear. But it seemed the daughter was part of whatever he was going through. Not that the daughter did anything, but that the thought of her was a big part of what's going through the mind of the sheriff just before the shooting. So let's try to answer this question. Here to help is the Chief Public Defender for Oakland County, Michigan, Paulette Lofton, and the host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube, Elizabeth Jones. Great to have you both here. Elizabeth, what are your thoughts here about why he's calling his daughter? And then that's like the last thing he does before the rest of his life basically changes forever, which is he decides to shoot the judge.
Yeah, I'm a professional waffler at this point, Vinnie. One day I feel one thing and the next day I feel something totally different. We also have the fact that he went to see her at the school earlier that day, and then right after the shooting, in the videos, he was still demanding to speak to his daughter. So, who knows? At this point, I don't know what the truth is.
Let's take a listen to the sheriff's attorney, Paulette, here talking about the sheriff's daughter.
One of the things that we've talked about from the beginning is the fact that the first thing he said to the investigators was, I'm concerned that they were going to take or have taken my wife and daughter. We believe that that Mickey believes strongly that his wife and daughter and family were in imminent danger. Now, we believe at the same time that the pressure and anxiety and other factors that I'm not going to discuss tonight, we'll leave that for another day, but we believe that his mental health had been impaired and certainly was accelerated due to this civil deposition.
All right, Paulette, how do you see the daughter's role in this case? Like, if I'm sitting in the jury box and I know that a call was made to the daughter just before the shooting, I probably want to hear from her and I want to understand this question. You think they'll get the answer?
So this is a tough one, because if the defense is going to be that he was legally insane, we are not going to ever know the why, because it doesn't make sense. He was having some sort of delusion that his wife and his daughter were in danger of being kidnapped or taken, and that doesn't seem to be based on reality from what we've heard so far. So if they are going to put forward the defense that he was legally insane at the time, I don't think it makes sense to put the daughter on the stand, because the daughter would give that call some context, and I don't think that helps his presentation that he was insane, because again, it doesn't seem like it's based on any type of reality that his daughter and wife are actually in danger.
Elizabeth, I want to play that part from after the shooting that you referenced, where the sheriff is talking about his daughter, asking about his daughter. Again, this is after the sheriff surrenders himself inside the courthouse. Let's watch.
I just want to see my daughter.
Is she 18? How old is she? If your wife's out there with her, if she ain't 18, we can ask if that's okay. But if she's 18, we just ask your daughter. So that's what I'm getting at. If she's not 18, we have to ask your wife. Do you think they're outside?
Sean and Christine said they was on their way. Let me talk to them too.
You want to go ask them about it? Yeah.
Elizabeth, do we know if he was able to connect with anyone on the phone calls? Do we know if he actually got to see his daughter on that when he drove by the school?
I'm not sure if he did. I've heard both ways. I've heard that he did talk to her, and I've heard that they didn't let him talk to her. So I'm not really sure what the truth is there. I think the only one that he did speak to on the phone right before the shooting was his aunt.
That was the FaceTime call, correct?
Yeah.
Paulette, he's reaching out, and he seems to be very focused on making this contact and this fear. How does that impact the defense, right? Because what's really confusing about this case is that there seems to be some meshing of some level of reality and some level of a delusion, is what I've sort of gathered from the defense here, Paulette. It's very interesting, because I've never seen it quite this way, that there were things actually happening in Letcher County or in Whitesboro, and there was some fear, and maybe there was a basis for the fear, yet it wasn't a real threat, or it was playing out in a more extreme manner in his mind. Elizabeth is smiling at me at this, so go ahead, Paulette, then I want to hear what she's thinking.
Sure. So I agree. I definitely think, if he just learned of something that moment, obviously the defense would be arguing manslaughter. Here we know he was deposed earlier that week. We've heard from people in the community how these allegations were just swarming about the problems that the justice system was having there and the way women were treated. So could all of those things have built and built and built and caused him to suddenly explode and be legally insane? I definitely think so, but I think it's going to be hard because he carried his duties throughout that day, went to lunch, seemed to be acting very, very normal, to all of a sudden have such a break in reality to then shoot someone that was a very good friend of his. So I think the defense is really going to have a tough battle on that one.
Elizabeth, why were you smiling?
Because you called it Whitesboro.
Oh, my fault. Sorry. I get that wrong every time, right? Every time.
Okay.
Every time. I get it wrong every time. All right. Great news. Our guests are staying with us. I'll try to be more correct. Coming up next, how important are the other people who were in the chambers that day to figuring out what happened?
He acted strange at lunch. I just acted all day today.
I ended up asking him if he loved me. He said, I don't know. I said, do you love her? He said, I don't know.
That set you off?
Someone was stabbed?
Yes, she's on the floor.
I didn't have the intent to kill Sarah. I really just wanted to scare them.
It looks more like fury than fear. Did you kill Sarah to possess what she had with Josh?
Sorry.
Interview with a Killer. New episode Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
And I think there was a lot of interest by those people who populated the judges' chambers, for whatever reason, about what Mickey might say in those depositions.
So this is another big part of this entire story. Like, at the moment of the shooting, it's just the sheriff and the judge. But like all day long leading up to that moment, there's a whole bunch of people who were in the chambers of the judge. Let's check back in with Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas for more on this. All right, Cody, who else was in the chambers that day?
Well, Vinny, there were mainly 4 other people who were in those chambers that same day, aside from the judge and the sheriff, and they're all connected to the local jail in some form or fashion. So let's start around 3 hours before the shooting. Now, this is a look at the judge's chambers right around noon. We see the sheriff there at the bottom and 2 other men aside from the judge. Now, one of those guys is this guy named Michael Clark. He told investigators he worked for an addiction recovery program as a community liaison, saying that he helps people stay out of jail. And we also know that he's a pastor. Now, the other guy is a man who identified himself as Tim to investigators, saying he works for a center and also helps people, quote, get into treatment.
From what I can tell, man, every time I come up there, you've been in the judge's office, y'all must be pretty tight. Do you work for the judge, or what's your
I work for an comprehensive care center. I'm the director of outreach and help get people in treatment and help introduce the judge.
All right, Vinny, so 8 minutes later, we see these 4 people walking to a restaurant for lunch. The judge, the 2 guys that we just mentioned, and a woman. Now, this woman told investigators that her name is Paige Hall and that she worked for Goodwill Industries with a jail program for reentry. Let's listen to her explain who was in the group that went to lunch that day together.
We all went to lunch together today. Mickey, Kevin, Christy, Tim, Michael Clark. We had a street fight, and Mickey acted really strange today.
So we heard her say the name Chrissy there. Now, that woman, Chrissy, is Christy Williams. She told investigators that she works for pre-trial services. That's seemingly with the court itself. Take a listen.
It's my best friend.
Right now?
Judge is my best friend.
All right, now let's skip ahead to 2:39 p.m. 13 minutes before the shooting, we see the sheriff and Michael Clark, the pastor, coming back from lunch, coming in to the judge's chambers. Now, shortly after opening the door, the sheriff makes a motion with his hand, telling everyone to get out. Now, look at how they react there. That's all 4 of the people that we've mentioned, the pastor, Paige, Tim, and Christy, and they leave 12 minutes before the shooting. And at 2:52 p.m., the sheriff shoots the judge. It's all caught on camera. And those 4 people we mentioned, we know that information about them from, of course, their initial interviews with investigators and from our own reporting covering this case, Vinny.
All right, Cody Thomas, thanks so much. Great work as always. And that brings us right to the next question in our investigation. How important are these other people to figuring out what happened? Here, still with us, helping with our investigation, Chief Public Defender, Ocean County, Michigan, Paulette Lofton, and host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube, Elizabeth Jones. Elizabeth, let's start with the man who is walking in with the sheriff after lunch, the pastor. How important is he to figuring out what's going on here, what's going on with the sheriff? Because he seems to be spending a little bit more time with him before the shooting than the rest of the folks in that group.
I think he's very important to finding out what happened. You know, right before they came back, both of them had went out to deliver meals, and it was reported that they delivered meals to somebody in an area that was more secluded than what they were used to, and that they felt, or Mickey felt like he was being lured into a more isolated place. And we also learned in the interviews, in the grand jury testimony, that there were the people that were trying to lure him, according to Michael Clark, I think, is who that came through the grand jury, that they were trying to lure him up into the mountain on a 4-wheeler or something. I was really interested to get those interviews from the state police, but I've not seen any of that.
So just clarify on the luring part of this. Is this the pastor saying that there was someone actually trying to lure him, or the sheriff saying someone was trying to lure him?
Well, so what we understood was that Mickey was afraid that people were trying to lure him into a more secluded area than what they were usually delivering meals to. But then whenever we read the grand jury testimony, the grand jury transcripts, not testimony, transcripts, it was put in there that, yeah, people were being a little bit odd and strange, and that they were trying to get them to get on a side-by-side and go up into the mountain with them and stuff. That's what I remember was in that.
All right, Paulette Lofton, how important is the last person to be like together with the sheriff one-on-one before he enters the chambers and kicks everyone out? It seems like this would be an important witness, perhaps for both sides, right? On one side, perhaps talking about his state of mind. On the other side, talking about his state of mind, whatever it is.
Oh, I think it's extremely important. And it seems like these people really knew both of these parties. This is not just a random person that saw him right before the shooting. These are people that knew him. So if he was acting odd, as we heard in that one interview, these people would know. It seems as though they deal with him on a daily basis. Everyone seems very, very friendly in those videos, like they all know each other well. We know that a number of those people went to lunch together. So I think their testimony is going to be pivotal for both sides, because these people are either going to say he was acting so out of character, something was obviously wrong, which helps defense, or they're going to say, yeah, he was acting a little bit odd, but he was able to do his duties, his jobs, and there really wasn't that big of a problem, so this is a shock, and that would be great for the prosecution.
Elizabeth, so what are we hearing from the other members of that group about observations of the sheriff?
It's all about him being mentally ill. That's all I'm hearing.
So they're noticing behavior that is different and off, and are they saying that what they observed was not Mickey Stein's as they had seen him for days, weeks, months, and years before?
Well, I think that that's what has been said. I think that that's pretty much been said from the very beginning. The preacher man, the pastor there, came out with a video saying it was all mental illness and that everybody would find out this is all mental illness. That was before any kind of an investigation was done. That was like the very next day. I just find it very interesting that it seems like everybody's word is being taken here. You know, it's one of the most corrupt places ever, but just take people at their word.
Well, we'll talk more about that, Elizabeth, coming up in this show. So, Paulette, let's put the pieces together here. For the trial, for the case, and for the jury, what is more important? If we end up with a battle of the experts, right? Like one side says one thing, the other side says the other. Obviously, you can judge the credibility of the experts, but then does it really become more about the observations of real people for the jury to try to figure out if, in fact, he was in the midst of some delusional state?
Oh, I think so. Obviously, juries understand that experts are paid by the party that they're testifying for. So I think that's kind of always in the back of their mind. Obviously, defense is going to call an expert that agrees with their position, and the prosecutor is going to do the same. So yes, absolutely. The testimony of the people that were around him during that day, or even the day leading up to this event, absolutely that is going to be, in my mind, the jury's most important piece that they're given.
Paulette Lofton, your expertise is always appreciated. Thank you so much. Elizabeth Jones is going to stick around because I know she wants in on the next question. Still to come, what's going on in Letcher County? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the shooting of Kentucky Judge Kevin Mullins by Sheriff Mickey Steins. The sheriff's daughter is now talking, and it looks like there's a whole lot more to this case. Here's the story. Inside a small Kentucky courthouse, the line between lawman and criminal collapsed in a burst of gunfire. Witnesses say the county sheriff entered the judge's private chambers, and moments later, shots rang out. The judge falling to the ground, dead. Panic swept through the courthouse as officers took the sheriff into custody. The shooting happened in a place where rumors of massive corruption have been simmering for quite some time. Now, locals must face a devastating truth that the man once guarding the courthouse door brought bloodshed to its heart. But will all of this now reveal something else happening in this Appalachian community even more sinister? This story has been like, peeling back the layers and revealing something else, and then something else, and it becomes a story within a story within a story as you try to figure out the truth. And all of it may be very relevant in the trial of Sheriff Mickey Steins. We'll see what evidence comes in, what evidence is kept out, and whether or not any of this impacted his state of mind. I want you to take a listen to a woman we had on this program. Her name is Taya Adams. She made a lot of allegations when she was on the program. We have not been able to independently confirm any of the allegations that she's made, but they're an important part of the story and the backdrop here for what is happening in Letcher County and in that part of Kentucky. So let's take a listen to Taya Adams. And what happened at 16? At some point, did this become what we're talking about here, inappropriate behavior?
The first time that I was alone with him, the first time I was alone with him was the first time that he was inappropriate with me, and he had me give him oral, and he paid me for it, and he told me to clean myself up and not to tell anybody. I was there, I had my top down.
Wow. And how old are you at this?
Clean yourself up.
How old are you at this time?
I was 16. Favors for diversion, favors to pay a fine off, take care of a ticket. I mean, various things in the chambers, somewhere in the courthouse. There's rooms all over the courthouse that I've been taken to over the years. I've met him like at the strip job in Whitesburg, different places of residence. It just escalated from there. It went to having sex parties and getting high with them, doing performances with other women. They would have other men have sex with us and watch. And that continued up until I started going to jail and stuff, and they sent me off to rehab at the age of 20 after my mom died. He just started introducing me to his friends, and it was just made very clear that that's where my value was. He paid for it, throughout up until I started getting in trouble, and then it became about my court cases.
When you group them together, why do you group them together as a they? What type of people are we talking about?
The higher-ups of Letcher County. It's the other attorneys, the people who work in the jail. It's the whole system. Courthouse, basement to roof.
And
pretty much in the buildings surrounding, too. There's a lot of, other attorneys and even some, doctors and stuff in town that are involved in these parties that they would have. In the various things to different degrees. There's no way he didn't know. Everybody knows.
Everybody knows. It's common knowledge out there.
Mm-hmm. There are hundreds of victims. That's not an exaggeration.
That one line, everybody knows. That's what really stuck with me from that interview. All of this alleged behavior, depravity, corruption, connected to the legal system and the courthouse. And everybody knows? That brings us to the next question in our investigation. What's going on in Letcher County? How does this get to this point? Here to help answer that question is the attorney representing the woman suing Sean Steins, Ned Pillersdorf. He's also a great attorney, defense attorney. And still with us, host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube, Elizabeth Jones. Great to have you both here. Ned, in your pursuit of these lawsuits, did you start to hear some of these allegations and rumors and it being this widespread?
The answer is yes. If you walk into an Appalachian courtroom, what you will see is something I didn't see 44 years ago when I started practicing. You will see lots of women with drug problems. Probably half of my criminal defense practice is women representing women in drug cases. And the concern is the only way sometimes to get them out of jail, often the cash bonds are too high and we're in a poverty-stricken area. The only way to get them out of jail is an ankle bracelet, drug court, or some sort of rehab. And it leaves these women open to sexual exploitation, which is one reason why I originally got involved in the case. The lawsuit I was initially involved in, I didn't think that was an isolated incident. And I've had other similar cases where women can be easily exploited. These women are generally 20, 25, 30 years old, and they're faced with the dilemma. They don't have the $400, $500 a month. And so the person running the ankle bracelet program says, well, we'll do a sexual favor and you won't have to pay the money. And we think that's a lot more widespread, certainly not just in Letcher County, but probably in the whole region. Because that's what's different about an Appalachian courtroom today. It's filled with women, drug charges, and, how do we get them out of jail?
Elizabeth Jones, so everybody knows, right? Did you hear anything about this level of behavior or maybe instances of other behavior before this case, before the shooting of Judge Mullins?
Yeah, I've actually heard rumors about the judge's chambers for years. But to be honest with you, I kind of feel a little had. After Judge Mullins was shot and killed, I think that some of the maybe prostitution services that a few men in our legal system maybe normalized. Allegedly, let's just say allegedly. I think that there were several men in our legal system who kind of normalized prostitutes, sex work. I've always kind of talked about organized crime. I think that we have a large RICO investigation that should be going on right around here in this region. But I think Taya named Harold Bowling, one of our local prosecutors, as being included in all of this mess. And I'm telling you, every bit of digging that I have done has said that he is not involved, that he's not been involved. He's actually a pretty decent fella, from what I've found out, and he was over the child support division. And so I'm kind of really struggling right now with, we know people lie. We know people lie. There's lies all in this story. But, which direction are they all coming from? Who do you believe? Which ones do you discount? It's just really a struggle.
Yeah, and every trial, as Ned knows, is a search for the truth, and hopefully part of that truth comes out during the trial of the sheriff. Our guests are staying with us. Coming up next, why do prosecutors really want to move this trial?
There was an overwhelming amount of pressure on him, some internal, but we believe there were external pressures as well.
Sunday nights on Court TV. Join us for a night of food, friends, and our favorite legal dramas. It's Order in the Court, and this week...
I'm Dr. Jason Bull. I study a jury's behavioral patterns. Not guilty, thank you. The verdict you get depends on me. You don't get a name like Bull because you give up before the game is over.
We're binge-watching Bull, Sunday starting at 6, 5 Central on Court TV.
I've seen Judge Mullins have sex with a girl.
Who is the girl?
I don't know. Because I don't know a lot of people from Robertson.
Where was it at?
In his office, in the judge's chambers.
Is that the same place that you were meeting Ben? Is that how you know it was a judge in chambers? And this was Judge who?
Mullins.
Another allegation of this inappropriate behavior. Again, we haven't been able to independently verify it, but those are from recordings from an investigation done by the state of Kentucky. Now, let's talk about this trial. Every trial, you know, one of the most important parts of a trial is often jury selection and who the jurors are and where they come from. Take a look at this. The prosecution wants a change of venue, meaning they don't want this case tried in Letcher County. Here are the three of the reasons they gave. The case is unique in that the scene of the crime happens to be the courthouse in which the defendant is reporting for pretrial conferences, status hearings, and could potentially be tried in. Well, I've seen that done before in Fulton County, Georgia. Both Sheriff Steins and Judge Kevin Mullins are public officials who were voted upon. Every eligible voter in Letcher County either had a reason to vote for or against the defendant and the victim at one time. The preconceived opinions as to the character and ability of these two men is likely to irreconcilably prejudice both the Commonwealth and the defendant if this trial takes place in Letcher County. Under that theory, you could never try a senator or a governor because they couldn't be tried anywhere in the state, right? Like, come on. The county, third reason, the county has been inundated with media attention ranging from local to national news sources like us. The pre-established opinions of the deceased victim and the defendant accompanied by the mass pretrial publicity has prejudiced both parties. Every high-profile case has coverage. O.J. Simpson had coverage, and he got a fair trial. I hear that all the time. That's not a real reason. And that brings us, I got to play one more thing for you. What does the defense think about all this? Take a listen to the sheriff's. We'll get to the question. Let's get to the question. We have it. Why do prosecutors really want to move this trial? Is it those three reasons, or is there something else at work here? Here to help with our investigation, still with us, the attorney representing the woman suing Sean Steins, Ned Pillersdorf, and the host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube, Elizabeth Jones. Ned, do you think those are the real reasons, or do you think there might be another reason why the government, the state, the prosecution doesn't want people from the jurisdiction where this happened listening to the evidence and judging Sheriff Mickey Steins?
You know, I predicted from day one the Commonwealth would move for a change of venue. The reason they want to change of venue, the likelihood that someone will show up on that jury who's sympathetic to Sheriff Steins, who has heard all sorts of wild rumors, will hang the jury. Legally, I'd like to be on a show where people can talk about a case I won. Actually, the leading case is Kentucky, where the Commonwealth has a right to change of venue, is actually a case I lost, where they indicted a local public figure in my home county of Floyd County. And I argue that the Constitution says you have the right to be tried in the district where the crime occurred. Well, what does the word district mean? Well, they venued my client from the 31st Judicial District to the 35th Judicial District, and I litigated all the way up the state and federal court system and lost. So that's why the Commonwealth is likely to win this change of venue motion. Historically, by the way, it's in the Declaration of Independence that our founders did not want to be tried in unusual places. That's why they use that language. But the Commonwealth is going to get a change of venue. I'm 95% sure of that. And that because it's a death penalty case, we'll have to individually question every juror. And I'm fairly confident the judge will venue this case. Just Letcher County is a small, isolated county. It's on the Virginia border. And I'm sure the prosecution feels they may have a problem with some jurors who won't reveal they have a bias. And that's very likely in this case, one way or another.
So they don't trust their own people that they work for. That's it. Elizabeth, what are your thoughts about why you believe prosecutors want to leave Letcher County to try the sheriff?
Well, we kind of got a little hint at it the last time we heard from them, I think. They said that they thought that there was too much media and coverage around it locally. But one of the newspaper men said that it was because they thought that people locally, or why they wanted it here to stay here, because people locally knew the cast of characters that were talking about this case in the media, and that maybe people away from here don't know us so well, this cast of characters in the media, you know, that talking about it.
Let's take a listen to the sheriff's lawyer talking about this issue.
We believe that Letcher County is the appropriate venue. We think that, we think that that's a jury of our client's peers. We believe that the same people that elected him to be sheriff should sit on this case. You won't find any better people in terms of people supporting one another, being cordial with one another, and everyone knows everyone.
Yeah, Ned, I'm with you. I think it should be tried where it happened, unless you go through the whole process and you can't find people. But, all the jurors get questioned. The fact that you don't trust their answers, to me, is like a whole nother issue. Like that, to me, if you can't take them at their word, if you're going to believe that they're all lying, where are we in all of this, right?
I mean, it's a death penalty case, so every juror is brought in and put under oath and asked questions. You hope they're going to tell the truth. The reality is I've actually tried the 3 death penalty cases in Letcher County, and actually the jury selection process takes longer than the trial. I think the concern is, we live in a different world of social media. There's been a whole bunch of social media about this case. Who knows what people have heard? And then you really got to depend on people to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth during voir dire. And you may get jurors on there who like Sheriff Steins. He's a likable guy. He got elected. And maybe the judge is going to say, it's just too problematic getting a jury here. I'm willing to bet the case gets moved. I think the only question is how far away does it get moved? I predicted the change of venue would happen. I predicted the defendant would object to it. But the reality is going to get moved. And for no other reason than, the voir dire, we like to think jurors tell the truth in individual voir dire. But the reality is people have bias, people are human, and people may have an agenda to be on the jury. My prediction is if for some reason the judge doesn't move it, I'm almost willing to bet we're going to have a hung jury. There'll be some people on there who are so offended by this shocking tape.
Very possible. We are out of time. Ned Pillersdorf, always great to have you on. Elizabeth Jones, Hillbilly Crime on YouTube. Check it out. Great insight into this case. Thank you both. As a former prosecutor, I really don't think prosecutors should ever want to move a trial. They're there to enforce the laws of their jurisdiction. And if they don't trust the people that they're working for, the citizens, to get to the truth, then maybe the folks in charge have some questions they need to respond to. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.